Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi live noding with animation nodes. Continuing from where we left off yesterday, so we got this setup where we can convert like a pixel art into um, something that's more 3D. I decided to continue on with this setup and show you what else it can do. So instead of having like a 3D blocks of cube in a kind of flat 2D setup, we actually can use this and create something that's more 3D in terms of volume. So this is almost a little bit like how you can visualize 3D voxel. It's not like it's kind of similar to kind of voxel simulations for smoke and perhaps like a fire simulations where you have like a 3D voxels instead of like a 2D pixel. You generate like you have some kind of volumetric data and you display it as a smoke. It's very similar to this idea that we've been working on. I'll just show it to you. So at the moment we have like randomly scattered points. That's because of this original mesh. We pipe in like how many do we have? 800 random points in X and Y. I can reduce it to, let's say, like 300. And if you follow me in the previous video, if I am sourcing like just a grid mesh, so we can have something like that. But we could, and we can also just source in some different mesh data. And if you also follow me how I generate the random points, I actually left out the Z axis, but if I plug in the Z axis, we get something that's more like a 3D. And if I increase back the random points, we get almost like a 3D volume with a randomly scattered points. So it's like almost like a 3D cube. And since we are using this pixel art, the mushroom pixel art from Super Mario Bros., we get kind of like a cake kind of cut through all the points. I mean the texture projected down, so we can see the mushroom sort of. If we actually change the texture, go back to our target objects where we have the displacement happening, and we can jump to the texture by clicking on this, and then so we have our mushroom. Of course, if we change this into others, kind of like a procedural noise that Blender has, my favorite will be the cloud. Let's have a look. And so we have this cloud looking objects like in black and white, and of course we can also switch to color. That's the color we have. If you might notice, okay, with this color and how it translates into 3D, you might want something that's more pastelic like this. So you could just change the mid-level to 0, for example. Depends on what you like, but if you like this kind of look better, go for it. Yeah, so it's starting to look much more interesting. say so we could have our grid, random points. Let's say if we use the template that animation nodes provide, there's a 3D grid template right here. I'll save this real quick. Save as pixel art 3D version 1. Okay, save it. I'm gonna save it in a different folder. Save. Okay. So this is a 2D mesh, and let's go to the templates, get our 3D grid. So this is, because this is templates, it creates this bunch of nodes, and what you really need is actually just this vector list. Let me quickly, so we don't need the instancer, we don't need that, we don't need this guy. Object transform, vector list. We don't need the object. This is a vector. Object transform. We actually don't need this. And now we have the vector list. Let's see if this works right away. Okay, so it does work. And then we still have this kind of cylinder looking objects. We can switch to, let's say, icosphere, or maybe UV. Use UV sphere today. And with the UV sphere, we want it probably 16 by 16 in segmentation. And okay, with that sphere, let's say, oops, sorry. Let's turn off the ambient occlusion for now. Make it a little bit faster. So we got our sphere here. I'll smooth it up. Shade smooth. Okay, and then I will assign the material. This material allows Blender to displace the color of object. And now we jump into this other setup and then change the cylinder into our sphere. Now we get something like this. So we want a full sphere. So where is the scale control? That guy, 0.4. So there we go. So we have like a volume of points. It still has the wiggle. And back to our generate mesh. I'll also save this quickly because I like kind of the setup at the moment. So we get 3D volume. It's almost like a particles. So yeah, when we have like a node-based particles in Blender, maybe 2.8 or something, or Blender 3.0, it's gonna be cool because we can then turn this into particle simulations and do more of cool stuff. But for now, let's see, let's go back to our generate mesh. We can continue with this. So you can have control over the volume. Okay, we can hide this guy. So that's our 3D grid. As you can see, our 3D grid consists of this grid mesh node. So you can control the X, Y, Z of this guy. And this is a full volume. Later on, I will show you how you could use other techniques to create your own 3D volume instead of like a box like this. What else we can do? Let's see. Repeat a vector. So instead of random Euler in the rotation, we can actually just we can pipe in the color into the rotations or the color into the scale as well. Let's see how it looks. So that's interesting. And then since this is procedural, the FX is also live. So that's Blender cloud noise, and you can visualize it in 3D. And further on, you can, let's see. Okay, back to our target mesh, and then jump into modifier and jump into the texture. Here, instead of Blender original, of course you have more like cell noise, Voronoi, cell noise. Let's see if we do 1. My favorite is the original Perlin or Voronoi. I like the Voronoi as well. So that's the original Perlin, and we can select our empty. And since this is like we can adjust the scaling of the noise. The larger the scale, the smoother the noise will be, and then the smaller, the more kind of crazy the cell is. So this looks really organic, kind of almost like a nature cell. And just like being able to see this is kind of cool. Okay, we actually don't need to see the mushroom anymore. Can close it. Okay, so you can have something like this, or if you don't want a full 3D, you can use something like your own 3D mesh. Yeah, let's see how we can do that. Let's see. To make this a little bit faster, I will go back to generate mesh. Maybe what if I cut this? Oh, if I okay, disappear and then still calculating. Let's see, maybe generate 10 of these. A little bit faster. Stop the calculations. Stop auto execution. Still a little bit slow, but it's alright. I'll probably go to the default 3D. I will just create like a text, and then let's say what are we gonna create? Maybe letter H. And this is a text object in Blender. The text object in Blender is pretty robust. You can actually extrude it and then do all sort of things like adding bevel resolutions, and it's still a text object and you can edit it like change it into other letter. We keep the S for now, or Q. No, just S is good. And of course we can use modifier and use remesh. And our remesh is actually kind of like a Lego brick kind of thing. Let's keep it at smooth. But at the moment it's still a text object. You can switch to edit mode, and then back to the result. But we actually want to just to have like a mesh, so we need to convert it to mesh. Alt C, and then convert it to mesh. So now we have a mesh object. So with a mesh object, I believe we can still remesh it and increase the resolutions. That probably is blocked. So kind of like a brick or Minecraft kind of thing happening, but we can leave it at smooth like this. And then back to animation nodes here. Let's see what's gonna happen if we plug it into our thingy, our setup. Object in, object input, select our object, and then we need to actually source the mesh, object mesh data, plug this in, and plug that in. Now we actually need to turn on our animation node setup. Okay, so this is working great. We probably want to scale our object. Let me quickly center pivot. Okay, don't worry about that. Just gonna scale it. Okay, so that's working. We have things like, it looks like an egg at the moment, but and then so if you move the empty, it's not actually, I move the target. Select the empty. So that's cool, and it's really quite fast as well. The inside is of course empty. Let's go back to this guy. With the scaling, we can probably we should make the scaling more like that. So if we have the original mesh right here, we can hide it. So still looks like letter S. And if we randomize the position slightly, so that's kind of more natural here. So we still have the rotation happening. We probably don't need the rotation. It really depends on the objects you're instancing here. You can also randomize the instance for sure. Let's see. What other vector math do we have? snap absolute snap is actually interesting. It will snap it into the grid. Absolute scale. With a color. Choose combine, separate color, mix. Vertex color mix. Let's see if we use cone, torus. Torus might be a little bit heavy. Cone, cylinder. With a vector here, because it's a 3 value, when I plugged in a random value, it goes into like that kind of egg looking things. You might like this, but you probably just want like a single value. If we just source in the R or the G or the B value, because we separate the vector here, right? If we just source in one, so it becomes something like that. It's more proportion in XYZ, and oops, we have the empty. So this is for our 3D texture positioning. If we like to have more control on the scale, we can use vector scaling. Vector math. Yes. Let's do that. And let's see, scale. So that kind of adding a little bit of control. Okay, I'm pretty happy with it. Wonder we have like a vector to scalar, vector to Euler. Let's see what else. Try to think of any other idea I can show you. We can of course use particles to instance our objects. Metal ball might be cool. Torus, icosphere, circle. Let's use the cylinder then, and then like replace our sphere. Use the material with object color. this guy. Random rotation will work, and then with scaling, it's random rotation. How about random wiggle? Random Euler, that's the one. You kind of have like a more natural rotation with random Euler. That's a really useful animation nodes thing. So let's hide our original object. So yeah, that's, feel free to play around with this idea. Of course, we can add more resolutions to our text object, and the effects will propagate. So add a subdivision surface, and then of course I need to turn on the use modifier. So it's calculating. Now we have our S, complex letter S, like that. Okay, so just feel free to experiment and then play around with this setup. This is the power of procedural setup. And this is also how you can visualize 3D volume. Blender Cycles has like a volumetric smoke or kind of volumetric shader, and it kind of does this as well. It's really cool. It's more volume. If you're more into volume stuff, I rather worked with this because it's more 3D, and you can print this out, I believe, if you turn it into a single mesh. And later on I might have one more thing where you can, let's say you have like a 3D textured object, maybe like a human face, and then you want to turn it into this kind of setup. Maybe that's for the next live noding session. So for now, I'll leave you with this. Hope you like this video and find this useful. If you like, please subscribe. Thank you again for watching.